Hey everyone, Giles here. I am putting together a quick video today because over the weekend we had some PTR testing of the new raid Aberrus, the Shadowed Crucible. You can see the footage from this behind me here as we have a quick look through, and I wanted to give you some of my impressions of the first few bosses. So you can see behind me here we have Kazzara, the Hellforged, the first boss of the new raid. Kazzara is a pretty badass looking Shadowflame dragon with some cool sort of Shadowflame effects that you see throughout the fight. Overall, all the bosses that we got through were pretty easy. We only did it on normal. We are capped to 400 eye level here on the PTR, but there wasn't any major dramas until, unfortunately, we hit a boss that was bugged and unable to be killed, and that was the fourth boss. So we got through the first three. As you can see here, running the new tier set on the DK, it felt pretty nice. I do have a 421 puzzle box in this, so it is at that sweet spot where you're still using the trinkets from last tier. Whether or not we have the trinket or a replacement for the puzzle box into next tier is still a question to be seen. You can see here that there are lines that are following people through these puddles here as they're moving. And a little later on in the fight, Kazzara will actually drop pools on the ground that those lasers can be run through to stop them from chasing people, but on normal they seem to just drop off by themselves. Here you can see the rings going out now. These are the swirlies that will stop the laser pools a little later on in the fight. There's some pretty easy stuff. We just hit the first, I suppose you could call it an intermission, where the first bits of armor fly past, and the damage of the fight begins to ramp up from here at 75%, 50%, and 25%. Kazzara will actually break off parts of their armor, and they'll increase their ramping damage, increase the damage of the abilities that they do over the whole course of the fight. Overall, this was a pretty nice, pretty neat first boss. I like first dragon bosses. It really sets up the tonality, the theme of the game. But I'm always a big fan of fighting dragons whenever you're going to fight anything. We're about to hit the 50% mark here, and there's the 50%. You can see all the flames go off, some lasers come out, the pieces fall off the dragon. Here, there's the pieces falling off. You can see the actual armor coming off the dragon, and the ramping damage begins to increase. Again, at 400 eye level, with the tuning that we have on the PTR, it didn't feel too bad to fight into. Just obviously, I assume that they'll probably tune it a little harder. They normally keep the PTR sort of undertuned so that everyone can see all the fights and all the phases. And again, this is only on normal. Pulls drop out. Keep fighting the boss. The ramping damage towards the end of the fight does get a little nasty. I think we had a couple of people die towards the end. I'm pretty sure I died towards the end of this fight. But again, it wasn't too bad. Something most people shouldn't struggle with going into Season 2 eye level, especially if you're already sitting around that sort of 415 to 420 eye level mark. There is a frontal here. Everyone just dodges it. It just sort of targets someone random. Just don't get hit by the giant laser beam coming out of the frontal. And overall, pretty easy. Murder, there is the 25% intermission, and now the ramping damage is getting pretty intense here. You can see everyone's health bars there. Every little pulse, you see a bit of a chunk. Our healers are sort of starting to pump their numbers up a little bit. I wish I had my healing meters up for this, actually. I don't know why I didn't. And coming down a little easy now. Yep, avoid the frontal. Couple of people dying to the pulsing damage and just some swirlies. Not something that we should worry about too much. I think these swirlies here, no, don't need a defensive to pop them. Just don't walk through them like an idiot like I did. But the pulsing damage is pretty big here, especially on normal. Especially at eye level. Oh, there you go. I stood in bad. Do I look at the recap here? Yep. Yep, just the ray. I just stood directly in the beam I was meant to get out of the way of. Kazzara coming down here, 3 million health to go. Nice and easy. A couple of people stood in bad there. And overall, not too bad. Not too bad a fight there. There we go. What I will do here is I'm just going to skip ahead because we actually go to the 4th boss first here by mistake. Instead of going left towards the 2nd boss, we headed right towards the 4th boss. You can decide intermittently which boss you want to fight next. You can fight the 4th boss and the 5th boss, or the 2nd boss and the 3rd boss, but you do need to clear all of those before you get to the 6th. The trash, I will say, in this felt a little nasty, although we did pull all the trash pretty big every time. But we're just going to skip ahead. This is the 4th boss here, but unfortunately he was bugged. Well, is this the 4th boss? No, this is just the trash, I believe. Yep, this is just the trash. Coming up to the boss. Here's us looking at the table. And here's the boss. Unfortunately, Warlord, what is this called? Assault of the Zakali. The Assault of the Zakali fight was bugged. We had a couple of attempts at it, but unfortunately, you can see he spawns these, as we run over here, he spawns these little shielded guys here, these magma mystics, and these shields are meant to have, from memory, around 100k health on normal, and they were spawning with 12 million health. Which you may notice is almost as much health as the boss himself. Yeah, probably mouse over it here. You go 10.9 million health these barriers had, and there's 2 of them at the same time. There's one on the platform over there as well, and new ones spawn every minute. So it did unfortunately make this fight unkillable. We're sort of theory crafting and seeing what we can do here. We had a couple of attempts at him, but you very rapidly sort of get overwhelmed in it. And it wipes you if you don't clear those shields in time. So we decided to move on. More trash. The trash is pretty nasty, I will say. And here we go. This is the actual 2nd boss of the raid. So this is the Amalgamation chamber. So we have 2 guys here. We've got a shadow guy who you can see on screen, and just off here to the right, there's a fire guy as well. Just looking through the abilities. Do I turn my camera at all? Yep. You can see just here, there's a fire guy and a shadow guy. Now, one of the things that we realized with this is there's actually meant to be a DPS swap between the 2. We didn't have to do that to clear the boss. We just straight up had half the room on one side, half the room on the other side, and just DPS them down. The ramping damage did get a little intense, again at 400 eye level on normal with PTR tuning. I imagine the tuning will make it a little more mandatory to do the swap. But you'll see here, they both have their own mechanics, and they go off sort of one after the other. So usually the fire guy will go, then the shadow guy will go, and they do their own little get in, get out mechanics. At 50% into the fight, they merge, and then they start doing both mechanics together. So you can see him shooting his little fire tornadoes out there in the distance, and our shadow guys, let me try to be a good cameraman and get these in the shot, shoot off these little pools that you have to get out of. The pools do vanish after some time, which is handy. Now, the way that the merge works on this is it's kind of like the Kairaka fight in Ruby Life Pools, the last boss of Ruby Life Pools, where if one of them hits... Hello, kitty. If one of them hits 50%, then that procs the transition. So if you have your entire team on one and get one down to 50 and the others at 100, then they'll merge together and they'll be at 75% total health. So think of them as kind of having a shared health bar of 200%, and then whatever you get done in that percentage is what brings them down. So far there was nothing too deadly here that we really had to avoid. He does do this where he pulls you all in, and you then have to get back out of it. But the damage, especially at the start, wasn't bad enough that we really had to worry too much about the mechanics. Flame Slash is going to shoot tornadoes off again there. I panned the camera away right at the wrong time. There we go. Flame tornadoes. I unfortunately only fought the shadow guy for the entire fight, so I can't tell you exactly what the fire guy does. getting these out, back in. We're going to get him to 50% here. Yep, we have to get out of this. I managed to just AMS it, not take too much damage. We did have some people die early, some low healthies. That is because there is a swap. You can see here I've got 33 stacks of this ticking debuff, and that debuff there is meant to actually be the thing that causes you to swap, because it keeps stacking and keeps refreshing. There you go, there's another stack there. More detonations. Get the pools out. Yep. You can see it's ramping the amount of damage we take, and there's the conjoin. So he's at 53% now. So we had them pretty close to equal health. I think we had one at 55, 56. 56 makes sense if you join at 53. And now their mechanics combine, and they stop being just Shadow or Fire and actually become Shadowflame damage. You can see the tornadoes going out of the pools. That's probably a good one to stack in a specific way, because I'm pretty sure those pools don't go away over the course of the fight. Yep, kite the boss around. From here, he just does all the mechanics joined together as you start getting stacks of Shadow Flame damage. So it does clear your Shadow and Flame stacks when you go into the boss. There we go, a little lure error there, but nice and easy, nothing too concerning with him. Good fight, I like it, it's unique. It's kind of the council fight. You do have to keep them separated. I think if you keep them together, then they give some sort of buff to each other, or actually no, everyone just gets double stacks, and the double stacks are what hurts you. Move on up the corridor, pull trash very aggressively. These are like Globgrog from Plaguefall. He actually eats these fluids and becomes huge. You'll see them all walk into him. He'll eat them and get bigger and scarier. There you go. Nothing too crazy. Now we get into the Forgotten Experiments. Now, I had heard that these were bugged originally on the PTR, but they weren't bugged for us. We managed to get straight through them without any issue at all. So you have, this is a pretty unique take on the council fight as well. There's 3 bosses. There'll be one here, if I get my talents all the way. There's one here in the middle of the room. There's one in this echo chamber here on the left, and there's one in this chamber here on the right. Just doing a cheeky lust reset here. Making sure that I've got talents. Yay, single target talents, perfect. See if I can get into this pool for us. I was just looking at the loot. Okay, went a little far ahead there. Alright. So the first guy, Neldris, each dragon boss has their own mechanics as well, so you actually get 3 distinct sets of mechanics over the fight, and the theme is that they become more and more crazy and more chaotic as the fight progresses. So he starts out with this sort of roar that everyone should get out of, or you take a chunk of damage. Again, I think we just dramatically out-gear this. Even at 400, it was just tuned. This is your standard sort of stay away from lines, where he bounces from one to the other, going through the raid and giving them all a bleed. Again, we just ate it largely. We ate most of the mechanics here. I think the tuning was designed so that you could just walk in and kill everything. As his health gets lower, the damage increases. We'll just skip ahead a little too far there. 20%, and we just blasted him down to 0. One of the things I will say that I dislike with this fight, though, is that there is RP in the middle of the fight. If I just turn the sound on here.
I don't think we actually need to get out of that Pookie.
Yeah, it doesn't do that much damage.
I think because it's normal.
Who's the next one? This guy?
So we get Thadrion.
Is there RP mid-fight? What is...
Yeah, commentary on RP. So there's actually quite a long RP, and then, well, not quite a long, but there's still 10 to 15 seconds RP in the middle of a fight, which will never feel good. His mechanics are very similar. You've got these swirlies to not stand in. You've got some frontals to deal with. More swirlies coming out. and this. Everyone should get out of that. There is, at this stage as well, there's a Dispel. This is the Dispel here. Now, what we realized was that this Dispel always goes from one person to another person, even if no one is standing in the ring. And we, at the start of this fight, our healers just started dispelling this like mad. And by the end of this boss encounter, by the end of this second guy, we had a ton of these up at the same time. The idea, I believe, that we worked out is that you want to hold on to not dispelling them for as long as you can. It's a ticking dot that increases in damage over time. You want to not dispel it on your DPS as long as you can, because by the end of it you will have quite a lot of these all at the same time. Swirlies again. Big Dispel. We just blast him. And our DPS is, I mean, our DPS players are fantastic, don't get me wrong, but we're doing 40, 60k here, just pretty normal DPS. This is everyone with the new tier sets as well, but 60k DPS, and we're just blasting straight through him. So I think with again, I was touching on it before, with the new tuning, it'll probably become a little more difficult than this, but I can't imagine it at the current eye levels that most people are at now. It's going to be too much of a drama on normal. And now we get the third guy. So the third guy is the last of the prototypes of the Drakthir before we actually got the final Drakthir. Here you can see just a ton of these swirlies coming out on us. And he sort of does the first two's mechanics together. He combines them. There's a lot of that theme where you'll have one set of mechanics, and then a combination of the two. Drops these little orbies on people, drops swirlies, drops big dispels. But again, nothing too concerning here. We just nuked him all the way down. A couple of lure errors, but that's because these are weak auras from the current patch. They're not updated for 10.1. I just wholesale copied my current folder over to the PTR and just ran with that, and got some errors on some of the fights, but nothing too egregious. So hopefully these all get updated when 10.1 comes out. Nice and easy. From here we tried to go up. Unfortunately the next boss was locked. You have to go back and clear this warlord. We had another couple of attempts on him, but unfortunately he was bugged. We tried hitting him with the frontal, we tried throwing some rocks at him, until we eventually realized no, these are just not meant to have 10 million health, and called it a night. All in all, thematically, I'm a big fan of the raid. I like the theme. It is different enough from the Vault of the Incarnates. I thought originally that maybe being another sort of dragon Vault of Secrets style themed raid, that it would feel very similar, but no, it actually does feel distinct, does feel unique. It's very Blackrock Depthsy. I like it a lot. It's a cool raid. Thanks for watching this short clip on the first 3 bosses of the new raid of Aberrus on normal, and I look forward to seeing you in the new patch. Till next time.